I put my life savings into this company, and I'll have you know that for the first 5 years, our company, and I have an investor, lost $2.5 million. For the next 5 years, I made no money, I had no salary, and I put my family into entire jeopardy. I put my family on the line. But I believed in something greater than myself. I knew that I was right, but nobody else thought I was, except all of you. It wasn't the manufacturers or distributors that made Behind the Chair what it is today. It was all of you, because you believed in it and you got us to the top. And today we have 500,000 Salon Pro members from 90 countries around the world. It's amazing. We now have a magazine. I'm going to tell you about why we made the decision to do that. Hairdressers on the cover. What a stupid idea, huh? It's a hairdressing magazine. And I wanted to show you how my life has evolved in the last 10 years, and I'm going to walk you back to where I started when I was a little kid. There's Vidal Sassoon. He and I worked together, along with all of you and my awesome team, to raise $2.2 million for Katrina victims. We built 22 houses. And the interesting thing about this is, you know, that's Ken Pavis. Obviously, there's Tabitha, Paula Kent-Meehan, who is the founder of Redken. We've got John Frieda with me, and Antoinette Bainder's a two-time British Hairdresser of the Year who actually cut my hair off. It was long for 20 years. Anthony Mascolo, Nick Arrojo, and there's that lovely Paris Hilton. And I said, when I met Paris, I said, Paris, you know, how do you feel about being a role model to my 14 and 16-year-old daughters? And she said, I'm an amazing role model because you know what? I made my company, I made my career. And she said, you know, so I think I'm a great role model. And you know what? I kind of have to agree that she's an amazing marketing person, because who else can get $250,000 to go to an event and have no talent? I think that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
There's me with Tabish. She happens to be one of my best friends. We actually, for 3 years, we worked with Bravo and did all the casting calls for them, and I was a consulting producer for the show. So she and I are great friends, and we're working together all the time. Again, we raised over $2 million. We built 22 houses, and we had 2 different groups that went down, about 400 hairdressers in each one, and that was just a ton of fun. Okay, I don't live on Fifth Avenue. I never did. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who grew up in a small farm on a road that led to nowhere. I grew up in a town of about 10,000 people in the lower part of Illinois. That's the house that I lived in for the first 10 years. And that house in the summertime was surrounded by cornfields, so you couldn't even see our house. And we had this quarter-of-a-mile driveway that we had that was very long, and we lived way out in the middle of nowhere. It was about a mile from any other house. We were very poor. My parents were 19 and 20 when my sister and I were born. I'm an identical twin. They were extremely poor. My clothes were from the Salvation Army, and my mom actually had to ration our food so we could eat. It was a tough existence at that time, but we had a loving family, and one day I decided that I wanted a 10-speed bike. And I was 10 years old, and I said, how can I get money? Because my parents certainly don't have it. There would never have happened. And so I said, I'm going to start a lemonade stand. And I remember my parents saying, a lemonade stand, we have about 6 cars that go by our house every day. How are you going to do that? And I said, well, I want that 10-speed bike so bad. So I decided that I was going to start my lemonade stand. And so every day I would take my table down to the edge of the driveway, and like I said, it's like a quarter-of-a-mile down that driveway, and I'd put my table on the edge, and I'd sit there and I'd wait for cars to go by. Now the interesting thing is, when cars went by, they actually did stop, and they stopped, and you know, my lemonade was 50 cents, but they often gave me $1, and the funny thing is, we were too poor to have plastic cups, so I would take my lemonade down, or tea, or whatever my mom had, maybe sometimes water, I don't know, and I'd take it down, but I actually, when they stopped to get lemonade, they had to stay there because all I had was a glass cup and I needed my glass back. So they understood my plight, you know, and what I'll have you know is at the end of the summer, it wasn't new, but I got my 10-speed bike. Now, as I said, perseverance. Never, ever, ever give up.